Hi guys, welcome back to Vintage Story. I thought that I would share with you some limericks that I have written myself about Vintage Story and the people who are on the Discord. It's an unusual thing to do. As you know, I love poetry. I love writing poetry, and I'm particularly keen on limericks. But you may ask yourselves, how did I come to write limericks about Vintage Story? Well, I will tell you in a moment, but before we do that, there may be some people who don't know what a limerick is. A limerick is a particularly English form of poetry. A limerick is a 5-lined poem. The first, second and fifth lines are long and they rhyme together, and then the third and fourth lines are short and they rhyme together, and it has a very particular beat. And the beat of it is da 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 da. So that's the beat of a limerick. Now, limericks are light-hearted. They are meant to be funny, they're light-hearted, they're never used for expressing deep emotion. They are things that are of the moment and that they're meant to be funny. Most English limericks are rather naughty, and some of them are extremely raunchy. I am not going to share anything like that with you, so don't worry, guys. How did I come to write limericks about VS? Well, a great friend of mine, Hell DM, who does brilliant videos, and I were chatting on the Discord, and we realised that as we chatted, by the little emoticons that I would call hieroglyphs coming up, somebody else was listening in and enjoying our conversation. And I said to Hell, there's someone else listening, and he said, I think it's Septangularus. And I said, well, let's switch to off topic and see if we can draw him out. So we switched to off topic in the Discord channel, and Hell said, well, how are you going to draw him out? And I said, there is one thing that always works with Septangularus: poetry, because I know he loves it as much as I do. And Hell said, well, what are we going to do? So anyway, I wrote a limerick. So the first limerick I wrote was about Hell DM, and I was writing these off the cuff and on the fly, as we say in England, which means just, you know, as they come to you. So they're not the greatest of limericks, but they were quite fun at the time. So the first one is, there was a young Dutchman called Hell, extremely good at the sell. Resist if you can, but he is the man who will end up by ringing your bell. And at this point, I could almost hear Septangularus's ears prick up. So the next one, of course, had to be about Septangularus. You tried rhyming with that. A Russian called Septangularus studied poetry whilst on a bus. He missed his home stop and walked such a lot, he abandoned his poetry to cuss. So still we were getting loads and loads of hieroglyphs from Septangularus, who was absolutely loving what we were doing and trying not to join in. But then I wanted to write a limerick about Milo, who is one of the guys who is an administrator on the Discord, who was quite stern about channels when I first started. I'd only just learned Discord. I didn't know what I was doing. Anyway, I was having trouble finding a rhyme, and at that point Septangularus just joined in, and for a Russian to be able to come with so many rhymes in English was astonishing. So this is the one we wrote for Milo. A rather stern chap name of Milo fell into a Guinness-filled silo. By the time he crawled out, having drunk too much stout, he was so drunk he flew off to Cairo. I don't know if Milo's ever had a drink in his life, apologies. And then, of course, we had to do Tyron. So a talented coulder called Tyron fell in love with a beautiful siren. She wooed him with art and won all his heart in a romance quite worthy of Byron. Then, of course, Septangularus and Hell said, you've got to do one on Vintage Story itself. There was a new game, Vintage Story, that covered the devs with much glory. The world gen so fine, the art so sublime, so beautiful and yet so gory. And then of course I did one later. I was chatting to Sarati later, and she loved the poetry. So Sarati, this was the first one I did for you, because when I first joined Discord and Vintage Story, as you know guys, I'm not tech savvy at all. I was, you know, sort of flailing around, to put it mildly, particularly with Discord, because I'd only just started, and I was a little taken aback because I kept getting stuff wrong, and she was unbelievably kind to me. So I see Sarati like this: there once was a lady called Sarati, who was so full of kindness and charity. Her fabulous art wins every heart with its perfection, beauty and clarity. But that's not how Sarati sees herself. And we chatted a bit more, and I said, oh, I know you've got a dark side. And she said, oh, do a limerick about my dark side. So this is about Sarati's darker side, guys. Sarati is a mistress of light, but is constantly drawn to the night. She loves horror and fear, and when wolves are near, she laughs that they give us a fright. And then this morning when I was deciding to do this video, because I hope it amuses you, I thought about Strome, who's a great friend of mine, and Strome and I are constantly arguing on Discord because Strome wants everything harder. He wants the rocks to cave in, you know, he wants you to starve, you know, he just wants this game to be sheer misery. And I'm constantly saying, oh, please, can I have more flowers? So Strome, this one's for you. There was a player named Strome who seemed constantly only to moan. The harder the better, give me chains and a fetter, let me grind till I've shrunk to the bone. Guys, I love writing limericks, and I had a lot of fun doing this. It's not the usual sort of video, it's certainly not great poetry, but just sometimes life is just about a bit of fun. Bye bye guys.